The tragic case of Anni Dewani: love, betrayal, and justice. The story of Anni Dewani's tragic murder on November 13, 2010, became one of the most publicized and controversial cases in recent history. It began as a fairy tale, the wedding of a young couple in love, and ended in horror, accusations, and intrigue. Anni Dewani's death, while on her honeymoon in Cape Town, South Africa, not only captured international attention, but also sparked global debates about justice, suspicion, and the tragic complexity of human relationships. Anni, a 28-year-old Swedish woman of Indian descent, had just married Srian Dewani, a wealthy British businessman, in a lavish ceremony in Mumbai, India. The couple's honeymoon in Cape Town, South Africa, was supposed to be the beginning of a blissful life together. However, what should have been a romantic getaway soon became a nightmare that would shock the world. On the evening of November 13, 2010, Anni and Srian were driven in a taxi through the township of Gugulethu, located on the outskirts of Cape Town. According to Srian's account, their vehicle was hijacked by two armed men. Anni and Srian were reportedly forced out of the taxi, with Anni being shot and left to die in the back seat. Srian claimed that he was unharmed and managed to escape the scene, but Anni was not so lucky. Her body was found a short time later, and she had been shot through her hand, with the bullet traveling into her neck. The apparent randomness of the hijacking and the brutality of the murder initially pointed to a tragic crime in a country struggling with high levels of violent crime. But soon, a different narrative began to emerge, one that cast doubt on Srian Dewani's role in his wife's death. What appeared to be a simple robbery gone wrong turned out to be a tangled web of allegations, motives, and suspicions that would grip the world's attention for years to come. As police investigated the scene, initial reports pointed to the hijacking being staged, casting doubt on Srian Dewani's version of events. The investigation revealed that the taxi driver, Zola Tongo, and his alleged accomplices were involved in the murder. The driver quickly became a key figure in the case, and further investigation would eventually reveal that he had been paid to carry out the crime. Tongo's testimony was damning. He claimed that Srian Dewani had offered him a large sum of money to orchestrate a staged hijacking, during which Anni would be killed. According to Tongo, Srian had been in the taxi with his wife when the plan was set into motion. Over the course of the following months, the case unraveled further. Tongo, along with his co-conspirators, was arrested and charged with murder. Srian Dewani, who had initially been hailed as a grieving husband, was now facing the devastating possibility of being accused of orchestrating the murder of his wife. In the aftermath of Anni's death, Srian Dewani became the subject of intense scrutiny. Investigators began to look into his personal life and financial situation, trying to understand what could have driven him to commit such a heinous act. It was revealed that Srian had been involved in a number of questionable business dealings, and rumors about his sexuality and personal relationships also began to surface. As the trial began in 2014, the prosecution presented a chilling theory of the crime. According to their version of events, Srian Dewani had meticulously planned the murder. The prosecutor argued that Srian had been cold, calculating, and unremorseful about his wife's death. However, the defense team vigorously denied the charges, arguing that there was no direct evidence linking Srian to the murder. They claimed that Srian had been traumatized by the murder of his wife, and that he was being framed by the South African authorities and the hired criminals. His lawyers argued that the case was built on shaky testimonies from individuals with questionable motives. The legal battle dragged on for several years as Srian fought extradition to South Africa, citing concerns about his mental health. He was eventually extradited in 2014, and the trial was long and grueling. The case became a media spectacle, with journalists and commentators speculating endlessly about Srian Dewani's guilt or innocence. In December 2014, after a lengthy trial, Srian Dewani was acquitted of all charges related to the murder of his wife. The court found that there was insufficient evidence to prove that Srian had orchestrated the crime. The prosecution's case, largely based on witness testimony and circumstantial evidence, was deemed unconvincing. The acquittal was met with mixed reactions. For some, the case was a tragic reminder of the complexities of human relationships and the devastating consequences of an unresolved marriage. For others, the verdict was seen as a miscarriage of justice, with many believing that Anni Dewani had indeed been responsible for his wife's murder. Anni Dewani's family, devastated by her death, expressed deep disappointment at the outcome of the trial. They remained convinced of Shireen's involvement in the crime, despite the lack of concrete evidence. For them, Anni's death was not just a personal tragedy, but a symbol of the failures in the pursuit of justice. Anni Dewani's death left an indelible mark on all those involved and on the world at large. It remains one of the most high-profile murder cases in recent years, and it has been the subject of numerous documentaries, books, and media reports. The case raised important questions about the legal system, the nature of evidence, and the complexities of personal relationships. Though Anni Dewani was acquitted, the mystery surrounding his wife's death continues to haunt many. The case has become emblematic of the ways in which love, deception, and betrayal can intertwine in the most unexpected of circumstances. The tragic loss of Anni Dewani, whose life was taken so violently, remains a sorrowful reminder of how appearances can deceive and how even the most innocent-seeming moments can be overshadowed by the darkest of motives.